we're trying very much to be in smart logistics. So smart logistics are not only things that, your efficiency in your road planning, but you also look at smart payment collection. So this is something that, it just evolved, especially during this COVID. You just push the thing a lot further on that angle. So even before Singapore lockdown, that 2 months for circuit breaker, we have also been starting to use this scan and pay solution. It have just worked beautifully, and you just gain a lot of traction. And right now we also gain. The most importantly is, customers will always be be kind of not trying to try, but things have made a lot easier, especially with the simple QR code. And then basically right now we have gained a lot of trust in our customers.
To be honest, in the past few months, COVID-19 did bring a huge impact on our business. There's good side and bad sides. The good side, the people cannot go outside to the shopping mall, so most of the purchase happen from offline go to the online. So like the Amazon, eBay, this kind of the online shopping gets more. So which means the good side is that our business is growing during the past few months. But the challenge is that because of the COVID-19, so like the logistics and also the manufacturing production being affected. So a lot of the suppliers couldn't get product online on time, or so. This is the bad side because most of the medium size or small size seller, they just close down their business because of COVID-19. So back to our treasury side, this is one hand we can some of the merchants, the business growing, so that can bring a bit more cash in. And other side is we also lost some small sellers who, because they lost the business, so that is it's kind of it's a bad side, the effect. So I think we have seen both the positive and the negative side, because of COVID-19.
I think if you narrow it down to specifically how we have seen the adoptions this year or the interest this year, and I'll just go back to describe a little bit of the challenges we also had, so that explains this year's situation better. It was originally talking about how important a digital experience is, how important going cashless was, depending on the type of problem that we're trying to solve for. It was more around trying to get corporates to be more competitive out there in their solutions, and seeing how we can support them in terms of overall turnaround time and improving the customer experience and building on that business. But coming into the situation we had this year, the reason for customers going into or digitizing or doing the transformation, it's beyond just the piece around the service that they bring to customers. It's also around resiliency and also creating transparency. Right? So those are other things which became more important for the client. We found situations in which it was not just where we used APIs and various other tools. It was not just settling for payments and stuff like that from a treasury perspective. It was more around how suddenly clients were operating from different locations, how they couldn't get access to certain platforms, and so their workflows were disrupted. But going into digital allows us to actually extract information from various places and update certain databases and make certain payments out and all that. So there's quite a few different type of solutions that we applied for various clients. And that level of interest actually expedited a lot faster this year. The example I would give you is, let's say in a commodities organization where there are trade documentations and cash flow money movement requirements. People originally all sit in one office in a one workflow process where they just shift their functions one to each other to share information. But guess what? In this environment, everybody had to work from home. So we had dispatch people taking documents, going from one house to the other house to complete some of this information stuff. And that's when you realize not having information central was a problem. So what we did was we were able to start extracting information for customers from various platforms that they had. and streamline that into populating certain documents and allowing customers to be able to approve those more online. So that, from a customer perspective, was a lot more seamless. Things were happening a lot more faster. Documentation got more digital, and eventually the underlying settlement of those transactions also got a lot more. So physical location move itself created a whole set of challenges. Forget about the company's business itself. Just day-to-day operation itself was disrupted. So what we normally do is we start off with which are the exciting part of the businesses that they're working on, and which areas of the businesses are they having challenges in terms of products and services, in terms of having a full end-to-end service that they could provide to a customer. So that's where we normally start. Our strategy has always been to get into clients' business, right? So we believe that in the case of SG5, we got into the last mile program. They had a challenge in the last mile area. That's something we want to solve for. In the case of Ashish, it was around paying driver payments. So these are business issues that they face today in the BAU business where they think we can digitize. That's one area we will normally probe a lot of questions around that space and see how we can do. Sometimes we will take examples of other successful organizations around the world which have done some of these things better to see how we can look into those models. And then also they also understand corporations which are looking to reduce cost in some of these areas. I mean, having people come down and do this collection, standing in a queue, there's also a time aspect of it. So some of these things we will see and study to see which are areas where we can actually remove. So I think some of the examples on some of the treasurers mentioned earlier are real examples today, standing in a queue, putting up paper, filling up forms. So these are easy things which normally come out with a customer when we go through that process of conversation around what are the challenges in their businesses. So it's less around liquidity management and reconciliation and stuff like that. That's not the starting point, but eventually that's the point we need to cater for eventually. So when we get into the business issues, then we start to think about how we can start fixing that at the same time trying to give our customer a great experience. And we want to make sure that journey is right. I think we want to make sure that if you want someone to scan and pay, we've got to make sure that the scan experience and how they actually trigger the service is correct. In the case of Sky, when we looked into giving rates and FX and stuff like that, we had to make sure it's in the right time, right place, the right response, the right acknowledgements. So the ultimate customer gets the best experience. So that's how we try to understand the business problem. Then we try to go about understanding what the experience needs to look like, and then see what are the tool sets that apply to be able to make that going. And what's interesting in the transformation exercise is a lot of the corporates that we have worked for, it's very often it's just a question of getting simple data across from one point to another point, fast, with the right status and updates. If you ask me, things which slowed down is many times when the solution is super clear with the customer, it moves really, really fast. When the solution needs a little bit more study together or co-creation together, then it takes a little bit longer because you tend to start with a simple idea and it gets more complicated. So that could take a little bit of time. But where I think we've seen the real challenges when we agree to do something is normally it's around the disruption to the ongoing business. Sometimes there's lack of resources to work on that, and sometimes priorities across other things. So these are some of the things that we have seen. But again, what we're trying to do to address that is further simplify the implementation processes, making it easier for the customer to adopt APIs, making it easier for the customer to, in the future, we'll be looking to see how customers can subscribe the APIs on their own and load it on their own instead of having multiple implementation steps. So that's what we're trying to do to make the journey a lot more straightforward. Right. So in summary, I think the challenges has been more around trying to get time and people to get it going, and security has been a component which we need to address and clarify more than than a bigger concern, I would say. Some customers have various stages of what they want to do in terms of their development, but particularly in clients who had a very traditional way of doing business and now want to pivot into more online businesses, then they will need more help around how to go about it and how to create, the payment gateways, the inventory management, and all sorts of stuff that we can do. That takes a longer process, and there's more people involved on the client side to get it going.
Currently, we're in this COVID situation, and then we're going to go into get preparation for post-COVID, and then especially country like what we have in Singapore. Labor is always going to be a big issue. We're going to have shortage of labor for sure. So if we don't digitalize our business, leverage on technology, we can't survive, and we can probably survive for a while, but you just can't go far. So I will definitely encourage everybody to start doing small step, big step, and every single step counts.
So first thing is to kind of impact on the current operations. So it is not advised to kind of distracting your operations if they are. So first you have to plan that. The second is kind of also one more perspective is customer experience. So that is also a kind of whether it is been plus or it's just going other way around. And third, of course, is the kind of when you have a large size and one of the question is there and the answer is cybersecurity. Of course, it is also important. As you grow in the size, you have a $500 million payments size. Then, of course, there is a kind of things which you have to plan beforehand. And lastly, but not least, it's my personal experience that API cannot be cloned, and the banking system basically are so kind of very secure. So if things are going wrong, they are always going wrong from the client side, not from the bank side. It's not only the business as usual. Basically, there is a lot of other as well. So while we talked about the driver payments, I just wanted to kind of mention about at a point of time, the company has around 12,000 vehicle, with 12,000 driver at a time, which carry the company's goods. So we often dealt with the drivers. So most of the transactions happening in the cash only. So there was again a kind of a transparency things were also there. Apart from this, there is also a kind of a lag time. So basically, driver has to wait for another 3 to 4 hours, and the goods actually the service levels were also impacting. So while we did this API integration basically with our ERP itself, not only we got to have a kind of a transparency, but we also got to have a kind of a customer service level improving, because that 2 to 3 hours time basically which invested for the arranging the payments is now not there. So that way we are able to kind of help here the customer experience as well.
Quite similar to what the gentleman have just mentioned earlier on. It's all about the customer's experience, but it's also a lot about my guys to be on the road, visiting outlet, collecting payment. Especially probably in Singapore, they're so small, and then people will probably thought it is a lot easier. But our traffic condition, probably a lot part of the time can be very congested. And then we just want to make sure that, with a payment solution like what we had with DBS, so it's a lot easier for our people to focus on a lot more other things. And then I just touched on a little bit about the scan and pay that we have. So especially right now in Singapore during this COVID period, the QR code is just become a very very common thing for people, especially wherever we go, we need safe entry. So it's no longer, it just helps us to speed up the things. And then it truly helps quite a fair bit. And then our guys right now can really see the benefit of that. So as I say, smart logistic, we also require some smart payment solution like what we're having right now. So that truly helps, especially during this pandemic period. I strongly believe that we'll continue with that flow, and that is equally important during the post-pandemic.
API is a very important part of the technology side. So as we Sky here, we're doing the payment, we're doing the FX. So with the API connection with the bank, actually we have the API connection with most of our bank partners overseas. But that can enable our treasury team to do the payments in an instant time, and also can do the FX with the banks at real time.
I would say about for a lot of the modern age platform type names, new fully digital businesses, they are very ready to adopt. I mean, if you look at Sky and even in SG5, I mean, they were very fast in adopting the solutions. They were pretty fast in getting there. So if you look at the more modern age names, they are really, really fast. For some of the businesses who have been in more traditional models, but successful traditional models, who are moving into transformation, they just need to understand what all these means and how we can work with them. And that's a very short phase sometimes. And because we go to the problems that they have to solve for and we understand them, and then and all these corporates typically can move very, very fast if they want to. So hasn't been a big problem. So if you ask me readiness, I would say most customers, when they understand the problem they're solving for, they are pretty ready. It's only when the problem they want to solve for is not clear, that's when it can take a lot of time. Customers want to know if someone has paid, they want to know it's been paid. And they want the acknowledgement as fast as possible. And sometimes they want the acknowledgement to go to various places, not just one. So sending ACS back for various type of transactions is the most popular. And that's a secondary API. The early API is to actually get transactions done first. So, but everybody what everybody wants is the acknowledgement piece. And in the case of SG5, it's virtually a mandatory requirement to give the guy acknowledgement that the money has been collected. Otherwise, he's not leaving the shop. So the acknowledgement pieces are the most popular ones. My response to this is this. In fact, we have many clients who are in that kind of situation. So host to host is basically a machine to machine connectivity, right? So you take something from one host and then you send it across to another host. It could be anything, and how you cross in files and batches and stuff, which works. But I think the speed is not at the level where you need to give a real digital experience today. So in the API situation is more direct machine to machine integrations. It maps directly from one machine to one machine. It doesn't stop and hold and in various places. Which if it does, then it's not the right solution. So it shouldn't. So it should go from machine to machine directly. So that's how you create that instant experience and getting acknowledgements and all that in your app and stuff like that. So that will be the main thing. I think what is critical is to make sure that you making sure you're applying it in the right place to create the right experience. I think that's the most important thing. And honestly, if it's going to be just purely for just file transfers for basic payment services, API itself doesn't do too much more extra wonders. But bringing it into a client's business, that's when it makes a real difference. The question is what these APIs out there are for. I think that's what we need to understand first. There are various APIs for various kinds of things. If you want to connect to a particular procurement platform or a different accounting package or something like that, there are APIs to do those kind of things. Those are pretty standard. But there are also APIs which allows to be a lot more custom to the services that you want to provide to your customer. So the more important thing is to understand what is that problem you want to solve for. So API is secondary. You shouldn't start with who has what APIs. You start off with what problem you want to solve. First of all, you got to make sure you're totally customer obsessed. Second thing, you want to make sure that the journey that you create for the customer to use your product is as seamless as possible. And then work backwards to see what is the solution for it. And then you realize, who has what APIs to support what services. And so far, we've been quite successful in that space with various industries. So when we get into the business issues, then we start to think about how we can start fixing that at the same time trying to give our customer a great experience. And we want to make sure that journey is right. And I think we want to make sure that if you want someone to scan and pay, we've got to make sure that the scan experience and how they actually trigger the service is correct. In the case of Sky, when we looked into giving rates in FX and stuff like that, we had to make sure it's in the right time, right place, at the right response, the right acknowledgements, so the ultimate customer gets the best experience. So that's how we try to understand the business problem. Then we try to go about understanding what the experience needs to look like, and then see what are the tool sets that apply to be able to make that going. What we work with the customers to understand, if you understand the business problem, then we understand, okay, what exactly needs to be done. One, to take information. The other one is to be able to send back something, an acknowledgement quickly. Then there's another one to be able to actually settle the transaction. There could be another need to basically update a platform, an app, or an online portal somewhere. So these are the 4 requirements, and each of these could be potentially different APIs doing different things. But they all have to work like clockwork. So if one leg comes, A, B, C, D kicks in, and that's how we make the experience and journey come through properly.
In fact, the process was great. Honestly, it was beautiful. I'm glad that we went with DBS. So the whole process was amazing. They sent different teams to understand our business. They even have teams that go out with my delivery crews to understand. That's what our DBS colleagues just mentioned. We are doing the last mile delivery. So delivery will never be complete without payment, right? So, I have to say the experience is really, really good. So I'm glad that we have done that. When we decided to went ahead with DBS, the team came in. They took about less than 6 weeks or something to come out something concrete to be on the line, and then we probably close to 2 months we already have that up and running. And then they managed to conduct a training for my colleagues. One good session of the training, and I remember very hard that we are doing it at the MBSC in Singapore office, and it was just, the timing was just perfect. It was just before the circuit breaker lockdown in Singapore.
So basically, this UPI things in India also depending on some overall ecosystem. As far as this implementation is concerned, in our company, basically it was quite smooth. Both the team are able to understand the requirements. We have our internal team. We have our own homegrown ERP system, so that was not a problem. We have a team of developers, IT people, and and the IT teams from the DBS side were also quite good, and they sit together and to implement. If we start talking about what is the first reaction of ours, basically is to worry about if the operations would be disrupted. So let me give you a kind of a live perspective to this problem. Basically, there are a few cases, and they are all kind of natural things. While a driver got a payment and in another 5-6 hours, basically he might be getting the message that the payment is failed, and our goods are en route, basically might be $500,000 worth. So these kind of issues, one-off items, they used to come kind of, and we have to handle those things. As far as the traction with the team is concerned, the IT team is concerned, so there is not much challenge. But yes, we have a challenge from the operation side still, which is today as well exist, because number of failures basically, and this is a very important point, number of failures in these kind of technology things, basically to handle those failures basically might be costing you more than the benefit which you grew from the successful things?
But to be honest, when we decide to go to the API technology connection with the DBS Bank, we don't have much pressure here. We actually, on the other side, we look forward to it because we know how the previous looks like. Because you see, when firstly, we done everything through the DBS, the banking portal. And that is the traditional way when people doing the payments or doing the transaction, like the online banking. So we have been using that for many years ago. And now since the API come out, we think this is very good things because with these things, our team, especially the treasury team, they can manage the send out payment or the acquired FX rates in a much better experience because they just click the button and send out the API message, then they can get the response immediately. So that is, I think, is big motivation for our management team to decide to push on this digital connection with the DBS Bank. So from our side, I think this is more positive. So I think I remember at that moment when we decided to go to the API connection, actually we have moving quite fast internally once we decide to do things. Yeah.
Continue to get more volume for our Scan and Pay. Continue to help our customers, and then we have quite a large pool of customers also. Right now we are working with the banks, together with the banks also, nevertheless DBS, to channel that level down for customers and help them to, even with the tech that we're having right now in the market, to digitalize certain things that they can do. For example, their food delivery platform, their salary package solution, or the kind of thing. So we are in SG5. We not only sell what we sell, but we also are here to support our customers along introducing good partners like DBS to be able to facilitate and assist them accordingly. But for our business as a whole, we are also getting prepared for post-COVID. And then labor is always an issue, so we are trying to be as efficient as possible. And then we want to make sure that with the labor-intensive business that we have, having tech and digitalization will definitely help us to continue move forward. And of course, not forgetting the kind of customer experience that we're going to create, which are equally important.
We have connecting with the DBS through the API, which is support us doing the payments and FX with, I think, 524 hours currently. So for the next step, we're quite look forward to connecting with DBS again on their 724 hours, which can cover the whole week of the trading. It enables Sky treasury team to make the payments, make the collection and the FX at any time when clients need it. So this is the first step for us. In the meantime, we hope the COVID-19, once the COVID-19 pandemic began, then the economy can come back. So which means can make sure the e-commerce industry booming again. So that is very important for our business and also for many the merchants, especially the online merchants who rely on this business model. Yeah.
Target is to move to kind of API-driven payments more and more, and kind of implement interoperability between the various kind of apps and the banks as well. So that is also one of the things. Moving to more of payments where kind of it's a completely real-time experience, where, as Rauf pointed out, is a kind of it must be an information flow on a real-time basis. So payment is made now, and it's a kind of you just got a kind of details of what kind of payment is and for what it is being paid. So that's why actually we are just getting to more close to the transaction.
We've undertaken with a lot of clients the last few years, and particularly this year, we have learned a lot. So we're going to definitely advance what we have today and improve the experience and getting it easier to answer some of the questions in the poll earlier, to make the experience a lot easier for customer to adopt and use. That's one of the primary focus. And the other piece that we really want to embark on next is something to look forward to is to come up with the next set of non-financial APIs. So this is to help customers further tighten the connectivity in their supply chain. For warehousing, for quotation, for connecting to procurement hubs. These are not necessarily financial related, but it's something which can help clients connect further into their supply chain. So we want to make sure that the services that we bring forward is more embedded with the customer and allows customer to digitize not just one part of the settlement, but the overall journey the client is working on in their business. So that's the plan.